That one viewer is me. I'll stream to myself. Oh, there they go. There's 9. Oh, crap.
Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Thank you for joining Knowledge That Kills, episode 4, live to you on Twitch. We got a very special guest joining us tonight. This is one of my good friends, my mentor, super awesome dude. I've learned so much from him. Super humble, super goated. He's amazing. My nickname for him is Mix Godbey, but I'm gonna bring him on here so he can introduce himself soon. Shout out everybody in the chat. Leave a comment if you're enjoying this. What up, what up, what up? With no further ado, drum roll please. Mr. Chris Godbey.
What up, everybody? Can you hear me good?
What's up? How you doing today,
coming
Chris?
through my gamer headset working out?
I think so.
Okay, good.
Audio levels look good in my OBS, so
Yes, sir.
everybody in the comments, let us know if we got any audio issues, please.
Yes, please.
And what you got going today, Chris? How you been, man?
I've been pretty good. Just, pointing and clicking in my box over there.
Nice. Well, to start off, for anybody who doesn't know you, maybe you could tell us. You recently spent some time in Los Angeles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a whole month, maybe. Could you tell us what you were doing out there?
I don't know if we're really in a position right now to say, but Justin Timberlake's working. We're stacking up, and he's gonna come hard next year.
Fire, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so you engineer for him, obviously. You also engineer for a handful of other people. Could you maybe take us back? Do you remember what the first engineering job that you ever did was?
The first engineering job I ever did.
Yeah. What got you into engineering? Were you a musician and you just like found yourself in front of the recording stuff one day? Were you interested in recording? How did that come about?
I've been interested, using hindsight now, you don't know this at the time, but as a kid, it all started with having a piano in the house. So having a piano was the first little bit of music I was exposed to. And then in junior high school, I joined the band. I played the French horn for a good little while, learned my notes, learned my scales, that kind of stuff. And then my brothers and my dad had really cool stereo equipment, so I got, my ins and outs, hooking up a receiver to the tape deck, uh, recording cassette tapes of albums, that you want to listen to. Like my brother would have a turntable with a bunch of records, and I'd want to make a mixtape of, songs that I wanted to hear. So I would go in his room and use the record player and make cassette tapes, that kind of stuff.
That's
um,
really cool.
um, but if you're talking about getting paid to record, I was in college at the time. Um, the first time I got paid to record was some gangster rappers in Waco. This would have been like early 90s.
Really?
Yeah.
What had you in Waco specifically?
College. I went to Baylor.
Okay, nice.
Hmm.
So, after you started with gangster rap, you're in Waco. Where did you go from there?
Well, that's skipping an awful lot of steps, but after I graduated from college, I moved to Dallas and started my own recording studio in Dallas with some friends. And, that was okay for a little while. And then, you know, recording studios are hard work, especially when you don't know what the hell you're doing or anything. So when I gave up on that venture, I went looking for a real job. And when I was out hunting for a real job one day, um, I ran across the Dallas Sound Lab, and I went into the Dallas Sound Lab thinking, let's just go see what goes on in the Dallas Sound Lab. And I went in there and I met Russell and the receptionist, Celeste. They were both in there. I remember this day like the back of my hand. I was like, hey, y'all need any help around here? And Russell told me, hell, man, we all need help. So that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship.
Okay, so you've met Russell. You're at the Dallas Sound Lab.
Hmm.
What are you doing here? What's your first kind of big gig or relationship that you run into that starts to gain traction?
Well, I was bringing my clients to the Dallas Sound Lab. So um, any people from Waco that were still driving to Dallas to work with me then started coming to the Dallas Sound Lab to work with me because that's where I moved. Um, yeah, I forgot where I was going with that, but all of my Waco clients did follow me to Dallas for a couple more years and worked at the Dallas Sound Lab a lot.
Okay. And from Dallas Sound Lab, where did you transition to?
Dallas Sound Lab was a year and a half or so of just staff work. Um, everything from doing little jingles for these toys. I think I worked on a singing Christmas tree there. Some other odd voiceover type sessions would come in. Barney the dinosaur did a bunch of recording and stuff there, like kids and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But the project at the Sound Lab that really started it for me was this band called Sons of Servants, and they came in and booked a whole week. And Russell put him with me, told him I knew what I was doing. We did a whole album on 2-inch tape, recording rock and roll style. Um, so I did a couple projects like that there, and then Tim Kimsey hooked me up with Kirk Franklin when he was there working. Kirk Franklin needed some programming on an MPC 3000 at the time, which I know both of those MPC boxes really well. Uh, he was prepping for a tour, and this was before, everyone had Pro Tools off stage running tracks and stuff. So we would program the MPC to like back the band up and stuff. Um, So after that, I went on tour with Kirk for a while, um, running the show, like the backing track thing. And then I just started working with Kirk, and that lasted about 8 years.
Oh,
There we are. We're back in business.
boom, we're back. Sorry about that, y'all. I don't know
Yeah,
what happened.
take us back up. I'm logged in. 'Cause
Technical difficulties, y'all. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, we're back. Appreciate everybody for hanging with us and keeping it
we'll,
keeping it
we'll
going.
try to get our viewers back.
They'll be back. So, right before we crashed, you had mentioned
Yeah.
that you were working uh with Kirk Franklin because Tim
Yes.
Kimsey introduced you. And my question to you
Yes.
was, could you tell us who Tim Kimsey is?
Tim Kimsey is an engineer around town here that was super badass to me when I first got to town. He worked at he was freelance by the time I got there, but he used to work staff at the Sound Lab also. But he was freelance by the time I got there, but he would still come in at night to do sessions and mix bands and stuff. So he introduced me to several people around town that really, I was able to get a foothold in and work with some people that led to working with more people, which is how it works.
So, I know you know, but for people in the audience who don't know, Tim is one of my teachers from where I went to school. That's also part of how I know Chris, so that's why.
Yeah.
So,
Tim is super cool.
awesome dude, super awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so you start working with Kirk Franklin, and correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong, you have your Grammys because of work you did with Kirk Franklin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how does that transpire that you're working with him and you're working on gospel and then you get to hip hop music? I don't want to skip any steps, so maybe you can share a little bit of your experience with that, but how does that bridge happen?
Well, I mean, I was already working in hip hop, so um, you know, a lot of gospel artists and musicians and producers really want to be working in hip hop. So
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of crossover there with just some of the people. Um, but working with Kirk Franklin, you work with not just Kirk Franklin, you work with all his musicians and all of his singers, and all of them each have their own aspirations and projects that they're working on. And so when they would see me around working with Kirk, it became, oh, well, I want to work on my album. Will you come help me? You know, that type of thing. So the Kirk Franklin connection was absolutely huge just for all the musicians and singers and writers that were working with him as well. A lot of those people are still my good friends to this day. So yeah.
Wow, that's really awesome to hear. Because I tell everybody like the A&R of the modern day is the engineer, because the engineer knows like so many people getting to like play that role, and I think that really
Yeah.
goes to kind of show like you, even from personal experience, your network grows from like the people you know and the people you work with, and that's
Yeah.
so cool.
I
Um,
never really worried too much about what I was doing, just as long as I was doing. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy to be
Amazing.
like, oh, well, I don't want to work with gospel music, or I don't want to do country or this type of stuff. Like, I just want to do, period. Like, I don't care what it is. I want to go to the studio and make music with people. I don't care what kind of music it is. You know?
That's awesome. That's such a good attitude to have too. I really admire it.
Yeah.
Um, so I just talked to you. I seen you did some work with Big Tuck. Do you want to tell everybody in Dallas who's in the stream?
I sadly I didn't work with Big Tech. There was an artist that was on the same label as him in town. I forget what their label was called here. But he had an artist, I think it was Tum Tum, and there was a couple Big Tech songs that he did verses on. So I think that's kind of how that came about. Like he did a version of Southside, The Realist, and a couple
Mm,
more. But yeah, I've
that
always worked with a lot of Dallas rap people.
that's legendary.
No,
Um,
yeah,
do,
yeah.
do you have a favorite Dallas rapper you worked with? If not a favorite, maybe like a personal favorite experience with one.
Um, I don't really know that there's kind of several. I don't keep in touch with any of these people, but there's a producer out of Arlington called E-Man. I don't think it's the same E-Man as another one that you may have heard of, but he would always bring rappers and stuff, and I cut my teeth on a lot of just people's aspirational things, like, you know, I don't I don't know if the song's coming out or if, it just that type of stuff didn't matter to me. It was just the work is what mattered, and getting a handful of dollars for it was a bonus.
For sure. So I see, that's like kind of early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s. Now we jump to
Yeah,
closer to 2010. You worked with Jamie Foxx on
yeah, that
Intuition.
was under Timberland. Yeah,
So um
Timberland did a couple songs on, I forget what album that was, but I think it was three. Yeah,
and I also see like the Pussycat Dolls and uh,
yeah, Tim. That was all Timberland connected.
so you say through Timberland, like for anybody who doesn't know, like what for Timberland you go record with him, like could you tell us a little bit about your
For
relationship with him?
for the years I was really grinding with him hard. It was everything. It was recording, mixing, everything.
I see.
Call,
So
getting calls at 3 in the morning to send a beat. You know, send me that one beat. What do you mean that one beat? You make like 10 beats a day. But yeah, just always being available for people to just call and always you know your turnaround time is kind of important. So when people call for stuff, to always be available and actually do it, like that speaks loud, and then they know that they can rely on you pretty heavily, and then the relationship grows, and then you're just like, then you're really stuck. But it's
right.
all, it's a good stuck.
So um I seen you work with Drake on Thank Me Later, and then again on Nothing Was the Same. I know that you've told me Nothing Was the Same was with Timbaland.
Hmm.
For Pound Cake was the song y'all worked on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can,
That
can,
was
can
that
you
was a
tell us a
bit.
little bit about that? That's one of my favorite songs probably
We were
ever. So
working on Jay-Z at the time, the Magna Carta album, I
hmm
think, and that was a song that you know we do songs, and songs don't always get finished. Sometimes they're beats, they're vibing to beats. Jay-Z went in the verse, did a verse on one Tim beat, and then we pulled up another beat or something like that. Like it was just a song that never really got finished, and then when it kind of people come around looking for stuff, we start thinking, oh well, there's that one song that Jay did that he never really finished. Wonder if they'd like that. So that's kind of how that came about. And I think I remember the song, like Jay's rap is still the same, but the music's completely different. Like it's a whole different
mm,
song now. But he used that rap on that song at that time, and it was pretty funny. So yeah.
That's still amazing. That's so cool. That's a huge record. It's okay.
Well,
We're not gonna stress it. We're gonna
this
chill.
is this
We'll
is the
edit
chime.
everything out so nobody will even know that we went down.
It's all good, man.
But before all things happened, we were discussing how you worked on some Drake records because you were working on Magna Carta with Jay-Z and Timbaland. Could you move on to how you got into working on the 2020 experience with Justin Timberlake? This is a big record, a huge record, honestly. One of the biggest in the world ever.
That's another Timbaland thing. Timbaland had Justin do a feature on one of his songs like a few years before that, while Justin wasn't really ready to make a record yet. One of those songs happened to be Mirrors, so we did Mirrors, and then we sat on it for like 3 years, and then got together for the 2020. And then all the rest of those songs, they did one song a day for like a whole month. And that's kind of why they called it 2020, because we worked the whole month, took the weekends off, so that left us with 20 days in theory. So every day at the studio, like one song got completed. That was just the writing and the recording, not all the extra stuff. But yeah, the meat and guts of a song got finished every day for a whole month, Monday through Friday.
Wow. So you're locked in the studio, 10, 12 hours a day, easy. Right?
Easy, yeah.
So what is that like? You're engineering, you're locked in the studio. Y'all get food catered. How does stuff like that work? Do most people just grind all the way through? Do you get any free time to yourself? Is it group activities, like for people in the audience who don't really have that kind of experience?
I mean, it's all a good hang. It's not like just, you know, it's work, but there's a lot of hanging out and, chilling between times. We order food in most of the time. Most of the time I miss the orders because Justin's in the booth recording vocals or something, and while the food orders are going out, I'm sitting here doing this. And then it's like food comes, it's like I didn't order. But you know, you get stuff. It's fine.
That's cool. That's still cool though. I
Yeah.
I like to be on the group activities, and the engineer is just such an essential role. It's one of those things, people don't understand. We're 24
No,
7
yeah, yeah.
like on call type deal.
You don't really notice engineers until things are going poorly, and then it's like, who the fuck is this engineer?
Right. That's so
Yeah.
true.
The best engineers are never noticed
I,
because everything's running smoothly.
that's what makes a great engineer though. And anytime I've ever been in the studio with you, it's always been like chill city. There's never any fires to be put out. You feel me?
Well, I mean, I've put out fires before, but I don't make a big fuss over it.
Sure.
Just get it done.
And that's important. That's real important. Um, I wanted to ask you. You did some work with Kids Bop, right?
Well, that they take those songs and cover them, so I don't know what I did for Kids Bop, but
You
I'm
did
sure that
something though, right?
I I'm sure they took a song and then covered it. I don't
Okay.
know what song it was, but if it
So
was,
so could you explain to us how that works then? Like, you do engineering work on the original
I
song, so you got
I
credited on it, or you
I
got?
got yeah. That's how that worked.
Okay. So
I'm not sure what song it was, but I was credited on a lot of these Justin songs as an additional writer because of the level that I was doing stuff for Tim at the time is really like beat programming level type stuff. It's not just like, oh, here's my drums, put them in the session. Like I'm doing a lot of arranging and fixing of things. So I was able to get a little small slice of a lot of those records.
Yeah,
So
I've seen.
then when Kids Bop takes the song and goes in and covers it with,
Mm.
I would love to hear it, but I didn't work with any Kids Bop on my own, no.
Okay, well that's still very cool. I'm curious if you could go more into depth as to when you say you're really in there arranging or getting credited for songwriting, like what extent of work does that include, and like how long of a relationship did it take of like building that before they were negotiating like points on that? You feel me? Is that something that?
Um, it took a number of years, I guess, of doing stuff, um, for enough people to notice that, like, oh, hey, when Chris gets a hold of it, he really like chops a verse out and makes a chorus section, makes a bridge section, makes a pre-hook change part, and
Right.
most of it is just me pointing and clicking until somebody in the room says that they like something or don't like it. You know, sometimes I'm just throwing shit out there to see what people say, and if people don't say nothing, it's like dope, they use it. And then sometimes it's like, no, I don't think it needs a turn there. Okay, fine, click, click.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just am kind of trying to do what I feel needs doing until somebody else thinks I need to be doing something else.
Jesus take the wheel, right?
Yeah,
um, so there were a few more songs that I wanted to ask you, or artists that I wanted to ask you about. One of them, Jennifer Hudson. It
yeah.
shows that you were a composer, an engineer, and a mix engineer on that one.
That was another Timberland song, I think.
Okay, okay.
Mm,
So maybe you can tell us then, when you're with Timbaland in the studio, it's like him there with you and he's telling you what to do, or it's more of like after y'all have built so much trust and work together, he knows that you're gonna add to the record, so he just kind of lets you do whatever until he feels the need to step in.
It's both. It's both. Back in those days, he was working out of another kind of workstation. It wasn't Ableton at the time, and
Mm.
he would just. It was a big computer basically, but he would just go through samples and beats, and I would be in record the whole time, and
Mm.
he'd just be fishing for stuff, and click, click. That sounds cool. Let's, hold on to that one. Maybe we'll make something out of that. Mark it, put it aside for later. He'll just keep going through sounds until, you know, we catch the fish that everyone's like, and then we start working. It's like, okay, well here's the main loop or whatever. Everyone go in. I don't
That
really know else, It doesn't really work too much that way now because now he's a Ableton guy and he can do a whole beat from scratch by himself now. So,
right.
um, but back then he was just kind of spitting out sound, and we were, chopping it on the fly, and I was doing all the sequence work in Pro Tools after I would get the audio.
That's
But
that's
it was
amazing.
it was a good way of doing stuff. Like even though a lot of it was programmed, like it had a organic type of feel to it because nothing was really sequenced. Everything was kind of played in live and then, chopped and looped accordingly after the fact. But
Uh, I
that's how
I'm
we did all that 2020.
I'm curious how much um how much your workflow has changed over the years. As you said, like Timbaland has a new DAW now, and
Mm,
he has a new way. Like, how much has that affected the way you do your job now? in terms of even with
Um,
other artists or producers?
we don't really go to the studio unless there's a reason to go now. Like, we used to go to the studio to just go to the studio, and
Right.
we'd work on beats or, write, not really knowing what we're doing. Just kind of stacking up things for when there was somebody that wanted a Timberland beat. He would have some stuff kind of stacked up that we could go through and like, oh, well, maybe we could use this. Um, but now everyone's doing beats by themselves. So,
Hmm.
um, that wasn't even really that long ago. It's kind of funny how, like, just in the past 10 years, um, everyone's kind of changed the way they do things. But yeah, it's been a big change. Most of my work now is um, kind of here mixing at home, um, doing whatever projects I get here, and then I don't go to the studio now unless Justin Timberlake's going, or we're meeting with another artist to do something specific. There's no more like studio hangout time, or at least not the paid ones. Like there might be a hangout spot and in somebody's personal studio or something like that, but like booking out the Hit Factory for a month just to do beats, those days are over with.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Uh,
Yeah.
I think it's so
Well, that
cool.
that was like the last of the big budget kind of style of work for
Yeah.
me was that stuff because now it's like, you know, we're not booking the studio just for you to go make beats and chill. It's like we have
Right.
3 days booked. We need to get this done. Now it's more like that. Unless it's Justin. Justin will block out the whole space for a month, you know.
That's it's so interesting to see how things evolve, and then also just amazing that you have been one to continue to evolve. You've been at this for like a lot of years, double digits
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
years. So you came from like probably the beginning of Pro Tools all the way to modern
Oh
day.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
There's
for sure.
an
I
immense
think
amount.
the key to a lot of that is just not ever lamenting the past as being better or back when it was better in my day. I don't think like that. Like we've moved on, we've evolved, we're doing it this way now. At least I'm still involved. If this is
Amazing.
the way we're doing things now, this is the way we're going to do things now. But if you get caught up in a mindset of, well, this isn't as good as when we used to work on the console and cut 2-inch tape. It's like I don't have any romantic feelings about any of that stuff. You know, we 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 just move on and move up.
Throw some J37 on the mix bus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
I'm not getting paid extra to make the job harder, so I'll take the easy way.
Facts. I had a couple more records that I wanted to ask you about. One of them, Missy Elliott. You gotta
hmm
tell me what what were you doing with her?
Um, she she's like she's the only one I've seen that can really just make Tim kind of like go crazy because Tim will do like 20 beats and send them to her, and she'll just be like, I don't know, Tim. And so, like, he'll just have to work so hard to make something that she likes. And it's so funny, like, we'll do something that he thinks that she'll like, and then she'll listen to it and just like be like, well, what else do you have? So, um, yeah, Tim has made her a lot of beats.
So a fuckload is what you've done with her.
Yeah, well, I mean, no. I mean, I've done a lot of beats with Tim that got to her, and then she's like, you know, she, 1 out of 15 maybe.
Okay, okay. But
She's pretty
the
selective.
I mean, Missy Elliott's really like the queen of all the rappers. You know, she was really the
Oh yeah,
first
for sure.
girl out there like getting
No,
it.
yeah.
You
She's
feel
so
me?
sweet too. Like she's super nice, fun to hang around. Like if she's not getting the right energy from Tim, she will definitely let him know.
Amazing. Um, my next one is the Trolls movie. You did
Hmm.
Trolls World Tour.
Hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about?
That was, those movies have a lot of music in them. And Justin was, in addition to being in the movie, he's like overseeing some of the soundtrack stuff. So any like original kind of cover song or well, it's not original and a cover song, but there's a couple original like troll songs, and then there's like these like mashups that they do. I don't know how many people are familiar with these trolls films, but um, it's a lot of like covers
Hmm.
um and mashups of different songs, and yeah, I got to do a lot on the first movie, a lot on the second movie, and I don't know if I can say this, but in a couple more years, maybe a Trolls 3.
Nice. That would be super dope. Amazing. My last
those,
question for you,
th-
and
those, to answer the other part of that question, those
okay.
come across because Justin wants me to work with him, and so he tells them I'm working with Chris on this, and you know, they say okay, and they fly me around, and we do troll stuff.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's awesome. You know, that just goes to show like the greatness. Which I say
No,
greatness
I mean,
because that's what you.
it's definitely good to get a client that will fight for you when it's like, okay, well, you want me to do this, I'm not doing it unless, Chris comes and does it. So, you know, it it's not like he has to fight hard, but it's like, but now that I'm in the door with them, they understand it, and I'm definitely thankful for Justin for looking out for me on that.
So, for a young engineer out there, you would recommend building a strong relationship with an artist, and I would even
With
go
as
as far.
with as many people as possible.
Okay.
Because you never know which it might not be the artist. It might be another producer that works with an artist. You know what I mean? Like you never really know. Like the whole Timberland thing came up because some musician friends of mine worked with Kirk, and I was good friends with them through that. And then when one of them gets hooked up with Timberland, they called another guy, hook him up with Timberland, and then they called me, hooked me up with Timberland. Like you never know how the dominoes are going to fall when you're setting them up, but as as long as you're continually setting up things, you know, hopefully it leads to the next thing, and then it leads to the next thing. It's hard to have a destination in mind when you're just starting out, but that's why I say like as long as you're doing and not worrying about too much what you're doing, maybe you'll come out the other side.
I'm gonna pause you there so we can. I queued the sound effect.
Oh, okay.
We got a because you just dropped the jams on them. That
Oh
really
no.
is some. That's some amazing advice. Like seriously, I'm very grateful that
I
you're
mean, I
sharing
don't
that.
know how many records and songs I've been a part of that just never even saw the light of day. And after a while, when you get older, that starts to bother you a little bit. But when I think back, like It doesn't matter. Like, it only takes one of those songs. Like,
Mm,
even if you do 100 that never come out, like if you do one that hits really nice, then you're good. All those 99 that didn't come out were worth it because you got to the one that was.
amazing. That's that's amazing.
Yeah.
My last and final one that I wanted to ask you about, the recent project. It's with We the Best, Mr.
Oh yeah.
DJ Khaled.
Yeah, yeah.
You worked on the Khaled project a little bit.
I recorded Justin Timberlake's verse on the song Justin Timberlake's on.
Nice. And I mean, I know that that's normal to you. You're like, I just recorded Justin on that one, but for everybody else, that's like just amazing. It's like you got to really
Okay.
work on a dope project, and you record. Honestly, you recorded one of the best like features on the project.
I actually
So
recorded it right here. We did that record over remote connection because Justin was in the Bahamas at the time. I was
mm,
here. We have a little system set up where I can remote control another Pro Tools rig. So we set up a Pro Tools rig in the Bahamas and I screen shared it.
mm,
And he went in the booth there and recorded it all. And then I bundled it up and sent it to myself. Did some editing and tuning and stuff, and then just sent it off to college people.
that's amazing.
Anything after that, I just tracked Justin on that song.
So now that we've gone over some of your resume and gotten into a lot of like the stories, I wanted to talk. You have some amazing gear, and you have like some great methodology behind your mixing. Could you maybe go into some detail about some plugins you use, or maybe some methodology behind how you approach your mix?
It's kind of broad, but yeah. Let me turn my camera here. Maybe you can catch it. Do you see that rack there? I don't know if it's getting enough light.
Yeah, we can see it. Is there any way you could maybe go a little closer so you could show us, or is the camera?
Let me try to get a light on it too. Well,
Yeah, we can see it.
it's kind of dark, so there's some fancy D to A to D converters there. A couple Avid boxes. The like DSP APB16. Shadow Hills mastering compressor. Dangerous back EQ. Um, yeah. So basically, I'm all in the box except for that final print chain. So my in the box mix gets sent out into the Shadow Hills mastering compressor, and then into the dangerous backs to reclaim a little of the brightness that that the compression kind of takes away, and then it comes back into the box with the dangerous AD plus. So it leaves the box in the best way possible, goes through a couple little real electronic things, and then comes back in. So I don't know if it's always necessary, but I like to have it. I feel like when I start a mix in Pro Tools and I spend the first half hour just kind of like seeing what's there first, and then I route it through that stuff, and it just kind of gives me the feel of if you're putting it on a console or something. It just has a little juice behind it that I like. So I try to mix through that stuff from the very beginning.
Hmm.
You know, sort of like a top-down kind of approach. I think that's what that's called. But
Yeah, I get the theory, the top-down approach for sure, and I think that that honestly plays a huge factor. Like, why work harder when you can work smarter?
well, you know, not to do a whole back in my day thing again, but like mixes were never part of the song. Like, you would put the tapes up and you would get a mix on the console and you would work, and then you'd make a recording of that mix, and then the session was over, and then the mix is deleted. The mix is gone. And you can save a recall on the console or something, but like nowadays, settings and mix decisions, they're all getting baked into the production. So you'll get a Pro Tools session that, yeah, they want you to do the mix, but they also like what they have a lot of times. So you try to come at it at a way of how can I enhance what they have without deconstructing what's already here. Like, I don't ever want to get a session where it's like, okay, well, the production's done. Let's wipe it all off and let the mixer do everything from scratch. Like, that's not the way things are done anymore. It's like there's a session. Usually, by the time somebody is sending it to me to get mixed, it's something that they already like. It's not like they're looking for me to bring something out of it that wasn't there. It's like they like the song, they like the production, they like the vocals, they like everything. They just want me to enhance what's there. So
I see.
I try to kind of give a little respect to the hours and hours that have gone into the session before I even have seen the thing, and adding a little extra, trying to push it over the edge a little bit, you know.
You know, since we've worked a little bit together and whatnot, I know how much cleaning up and like really like refining the dirt out of the physical recordings is. Could you maybe talk about how that plays a factor in you being
I
able
think
to
it's
get?
huge. Like, that's another thing now that's like we didn't have all that before. Like, you could get little things out, but now it's like I can't even work on a vocal unless I can put Isotope RX on it or get mouth declick out to get little mouth smacks out, which are all over vocals. Even like you'll go through plugins and you'll get like a really cool kind of tone characteristic, like compression wise, you'll get this kind of like raw kind of cool thing, but then like when it comes out and the singer takes a breath, it's like you know, like when all that compression comes back up and they take that breath. So like we combat that now by clip gaining a lot of things. Taking those breaths and tucking them down so you can kind of ride hard into compression or whatever you're doing without like blowing out all the things that you don't want, like mouth clicks, bad punches, all that kind of stuff. And another thing too is people aren't recording as well anymore. Like there's a lot of bedroom recordings, a lot of questionable room ambience in a lot of these vocals. So it takes a lot of dissecting sometimes to get all that in line. It's not about finding a magical plugin to make your low end the shit. It's like the things that make a good record are a lot more detailed than that. Like, yeah, the low end and the snare, that's the easiest thing to do. Now, like, are the vocals in tune? Are they lined up? Can you hear, like, I don't know if you deal with stack vocals a lot, but, one vocal sounds fine, but then next thing you know, there's a T consonant or something, and then you've got like 8 tracks of T's that aren't quite lined up, so you end up with. So
Right.
I do a lot of fixing of stuff like that.
Now,
And just,
when you're gonna fix something like that, are you a do it by hand kind of person? Are you send it through vocal line and hope it gets pretty close and then tweak it up? How does that play a factor in your work?
Well, I don't have any like rules that I always do this and I never do that.
Okay.
Like my only rule with that is I always make sure that my sample rate is set correctly. Like that's probably the only always rule that there is, but the rest of it is sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So like with vocal line, you can't really just feed it a whole song and expect it to do what it's supposed to do. Like you
Mm,
kind of gotta line by line it, take it as it comes. Like because sometimes you're trying to line up things that don't have a thing to line up to, like an ad lib track on a rap or something. Like they're not filling in all the words, so
right.
you can't just vocal line the whole thing. So sometimes you kind of make little adjustments to that stuff. I mean, sometimes you get stuff and it's perfect and you don't need to touch it, but
Mm.
that's why I say like there's never an always and a never. It's all sometimes.
Um, you had mentioned that sometimes you get some sketchy recordings from at home or maybe
Oh
on
yeah.
lower quality gear. For anybody who's not an engineer out there, who might be an artist or producer, who feels like they're they need high quality gear to like get there, do,
They do.
do you maybe like could you maybe go into detail about like the process of how you get it to the final product regardless? Because I mean, I personally have witnessed you take some not so good things and turn it to some very very good things.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. As long as the signal's not clipped and distorted,
Mm,
anything can almost be saved.
mm,
Unless just like it's early reflection crazy city, like he sounds like recording in a bathroom or something. But like
mm,
um record as clean as you can without lighting up any red lights. So that's pretty much it. Um the red lights on most of those interfaces really typically mean, hey, go another 2 dB over this and you're distorting. So take those red lights a little serious. At least on the way in. Like I'm not opposed to red lights, as you've seen that too, but as you're recording a track, it has to be as clean as it can be. Um, Another thing to maybe not do is don't compress on the way in unless you're really, really super comfortable with it.
mm,
Like, because it'll just murder the life out of something.
mm.
If you're like, you don't want to slam a compressor the way you would in a mix as you record.
I
You know what I
see.
mean? Like, I'll go from the preamp into the compressor, and like the compressor, like 3 dB reduction is too much. Like that's too much. Just a tap. Then you get it in the box and it's clean. You know, fair game after that. But unless you're going for a specific effect and you just want to record something clean, watch out for those boxes that just make you think, oh, well, I'm compressing, so it's all great. You know, it's probably better to just not use it at all if you don't really, really know what you're doing with them. It'd be easier to just record clean and not turn on any red lights and then compress after the fact.
I think that's some
Disappear.
really solid advice, Chris. I'm still here. I don't know what happened, but my camera has disappeared on me again. I think our stream froze. So
Oh man.
on the bright side, we made it pretty far, and we
No,
we we got a lot of good footage here. I really did want to ask you a few more questions related to some plugins and whatnot, but I'm not sure what to do to
yeah,
get
yeah.
this. Oh, it looks like it might make it. I don't know. I'm gonna just try to disable my camera real quick.
Let me go to Twitch over here and see if you're live.
Shows that we're still live on Twitch, so.
Excuse me.
Okay. I've got me out of here. You're still.
5 viewers. There we are. Make sure you hit that follow, hit that subscribe button.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Okay, so.
Oh, I'm getting a Jones ad right now, but it does look like you're live, yeah.
It is live.
Yeah, chat. So, sorry, there's so much messed upness.
Yeah.
Is my camera still alive?
We are still live, and Daniel told me he can hear us, so
Okay.
that's good. I'm hoping that maybe if I just get this app that I use for my camera to quit, it will
Oh, you're back.
pick everything
going
back
again.
into.
Yo.
Got a new follower. Oh, here we go. We're in the task manager.
That might be me.
You can still hear me, Chris?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, they said they're seeing your background and they're still seeing my camera, but they're not seeing you at all.
Yep.
So yeah, we can just keep yapping.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
know. You know me. I'm only doing this for you, by the way. I don't do things like this, so
well,
it's probably bad for me that I don't do things like this, but yeah, I'm just a hermit, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I hope you know how much I appreciate you, Chris, and you know everybody in the audience. I'm sure appreciates all the great gems and knowledge you're sharing with us. You definitely should do some more stuff like this, you know, cause filled with all of the goodies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm pretty old in this game now at this point, so sometimes I feel like, you know, everyone knows that needs to know, so I don't need to say anything. And there's so much material online, like there's people learning things about mixing that I didn't even learn until probably 10 years ago. So like the way knowledge is happening now is insane. Like for real. Like when I was learning, I didn't know shit from Shinola, and it was just like just making it happen. And I didn't have a lot of technology to get bogged down in. It's like you have a tape machine and you have tracks and you have faders. This is what you have. Now it's, you know, people go on YouTube and learn all kinds of things. Probably things they don't really have any business knowing, to be honest. But like, because you don't need tricks on every single mix. Like if you're using every trick in your bag on every song, like that just doesn't make any sense. Like sometimes the right move with a track is to just set the level, pan it a certain way, and then move on. It's like you don't need to process the shit out of everything.
Hey, that's some solid advice. And our stream came back, by the way. We didn't have to
Oh,
stop
good.
it. I'm back too.
Okay.
So,
There you go.
you know, you mentioned not having to use every toolkit in the box, and I feel like that's something so many people ask me, and even people on Clubhouse today were like, make sure you ask him what's the best plugin to put on your mix bus. Make sure you ask him what's gonna give me, and
There's one. There's several. And using my always sometimes rule, sometimes I use the Sonex limiter. Sometimes I use ozone. Sometimes I put black box on it. Sometimes I use some kind of tape thing. It just kind of depends.
Hmm.
Um,
I feel like when I watch you work, it's much more of like dipping a brush in paint and just kind of free flowing across the canvas than like trying to make a scientific formula and calculate the percentages. And that's a big part that's missing. You know, you I think I told you
oh,
you're one of the first engineers I've seen that ever like was really working through Pro Tools like if it was a console. Like,
yeah.
and that's just so cool to me.
Well, everyone's chasing loudness, and a lot of these plugins get marketed like this will make your mix loud. It's like, okay, great. So my mix is loud. Like, there's so much more to it than that. Like, you can have a mix that meters just like another mix, and it sounds not as loud. Like, how is that? Well, the
Mm.
answer is everyone's ears are different, and just the way that we hear. If you're familiar with a Fletcher-Munson curve, you can look that up. But that's the idea that, you know, loud, low frequencies are automatically louder, and then there's kind of like a natural dip, and then, you know, and then the high frequencies are louder. So there's a thing in the middle there. Like if you can bring all these in the middle up, everything kind of sounds louder. So that's really what you're needing to do if your quest is for loudness. It's not always low end. It's really probably more mid-range doctoring than it is low end, because the low end is the easy part. What's down there? A kick and a bass. That's it. The mid-range is filled with all kinds of things: vocals, pads, guitars, strings. Like that's where you get the problems, and that's where a lot of mixes are won and lost, including mine. Like I don't always nail it. I always kind of feel like sometimes, oh, well, I missed the mark there, but maybe next time. But if you're if you're really chasing a sound and wanting to sound like an industry record, you've really got to just keep your ears tuned to what that stuff is. Like you can't work on your music in a vacuum without
Mm.
coming out and listening to what things sound like. Like every record that I've ever heard in my life, I have in my playlist, and I'm just listening constantly. So I have a Rolodex in my mind when I hear things like, oh, that's this is that, fix this, move on. But like when I was younger, I would work on records without referencing other records and just thinking, oh, well, it sounds great in here. We're we're great. And then you listen to another record to compare it to, and you're like, oh, mine is all just muddy and gross, and this pop production is all like crispy and bright. Well, that's because you've tricked your brain while you're working that everything sounds good, and you haven't done any like comparing apples to apples to see really where you are at.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
The Gem
uh,
City, that's where, cause
you don't, you know, the like listen to records where you work and find a level. Like you've seen me working here. Like I have a level. It's 85 on my little monitor controller. That's it. I listen to everything at that same level. Like
mm.
I still turn it up and down and check for you know, kind of different playback things, but I have a consistent level now that I listen to everything at. So I know faster when things are a certain way or not a certain way because I can just call it up 85. I can compare it directly with iTunes or something and just click right over to iTunes, click back over to my mix. And if my mix sounds muddy and dark compared to iTunes, well, get back in them plugins.
Most definitely. Do you maybe have you could give us one vocal plugin, whatever that you use that's like some styles, one compressor that's your go-to, and one maybe reverb that's a go-to for you?
Well, the vocal one is relatively new, a couple of years. Soothe
Nice.
or the Baby Audio Smooth Operator. That's a good one too.
Nice.
Um,
Oh, hey, mentioning
those
that.
are those are really helping a lot of people get results that only pros were getting before. Because the way we were doing that before was like we would seek out those notches and find those resonances and tune them out ourselves. Now, with those two plugins in particular, they can kind of seek out those resonances for you and
Mm.
duck things down. So you kind of end up with a more natural result of what your track was and all those little weird resonances. It's kind of taken care of. So that's one for the vocal, Soothe 2, Smooth Operator, both of those. What is the next one?
Um, like a compressor that you use, probably specifically for vocals, but it could be just a compressor you like.
I mean, Arvox, man. Don't get it complicated. Arvox is amazing.
Mm.
uh, that's a great, it's kind of like almost limiting, but like, I like that one to level me out before I get to like a vibey compressor,
Mm.
you know?
Could you give us an example of a vibey compressor?
That'd be more like your 1176 kind of variety stuff. Stuff with a lot of like tone to it, a lot of different kind of harmonics getting added. Arvox is more kind of like vanilla surgical kind of thing. 1176 is great. Um, I like that Acoustica L Ray. I don't know if you've
Mm.
messed with their stuff at all. That's amazing. A lot of my vocal compressors now are coming from that APB16, the Chicken Head, the El Moo. Like those are the. I don't know how many people know about that box, but it's pretty nice. Pretty nice. It's like analog compressors in a little digital interface box. It's not like digital plugins. It's an analog compressor. So, I mean, that's cool. What else we got? Reverbs,
Yeah.
Valhalla's amazing. The Valhalla vintage verb.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, who's not using that right now? Um, I like the EMT 140 and the UAD, like that plate. Um, Got to add a lot of pre-delay to that one though. I think the default setting is none. So pre-delay on reverbs is usually your friend. Um, just kind of depends. What else? What else did you say?
I think that was it. How about you give us an EQ, which I already know what you're gonna say.
Fucking Pro Q3.
Yeah.
That's like the one everyone uses now. I mean, and why wouldn't you? It's amazing. Especially the 3 with the dynamic bands and stuff. You can kind of do a lot of what you would usually pull up a multi-band compressor for. You can kind of do with that now.
Mm.
But I still use the Wave stuff a lot. I like the C6 a bunch still. I like the Waves limiters a bunch. Put the L1s on the vocals a lot. Max volume, which is, you know, I'm seeing a lot more of. Um, Chris Lord Algae Vox. Everyone loves that for good reason. It's amazing.
You know, I told someone earlier I use CLA vocals, and they were like, "Nah, I don't believe that. That's a meme plugin." I'm like,
Who cares what? Who
no."
cares what it is? Like, I don't care what people think. Like, it's like these plugins are amazing. Like, there's so many. Like, I I don't care if it's a meme plugin or not. Like
How does it
that
sound? You feel me?
that CLA Vox is dope. Like it's got kind of a built-in parallel compression chain in it, and when it's right, it's right. You just use it. Who cares whose face is on it or whose name is on it? I don't care about any of that.
Hmm.
Just, make it sound
Um,
good.
Somebody had a question for you in the comments. They said that Mic DSP analog digital thing. How does it
Yeah,
work exactly?
it's a rack mount of 16 VCA compressors and some kind of like analog harmonic kind of distortion stuff in a rack mount. And then it's controlled with plugins. So the box itself is 16 channels, 16 in, 16 out. So that box potentially gives you 16 channels of analog compression. And that's pretty much it. And MicDSP's got different plugins that interface with it. So even though they're all VCA compressors inside the box, they're using a lot of their algorithms to simulate an opto style compressor or stuff like that with their plugins. And then they'll add a couple of little digital processes to the plugins too, like a little tone tilt or something like that. That stuff is happening on the digital side, but the compression is still all analog, and it hooks up to the computer with the Thunderbolt cable, and that's that. Some of the compressors use more of the banks, so I think they have a fancier like multi-band compressor that uses, I think, 6 if you're using that compressor as a stereo like multi-band. I think it's using 6 different compressors inside the box, low, mid, high for 2 sides. So yeah, that'd be 6. um I don't know, it's just a cool box. It gives you a little bit of that flavor that you're looking for when you're thinking, oh, well, I'm mixing in the box, I need a analog compressor, let me try this. And sometimes it gives you a little something. I like
He said, "That's awesome."
it.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Those are cool. You gotta. It really wants proper gain staging, that box. Like you can't abuse it like you do a lot of these plugins. Like when you send it a level, it needs to be kind of in the analog domain kind of level, or else the compressors are just like slamming.
Yo, this is kind of like an off the wall question, but I'm sure you know the answer. So I gotta ask you, what's the most important shortcut in Pro Tools?
Apple S.
Yeah. You
Apple
got
S,
it, yeah.
baby. Let's see here. What's the second one? Probably the zoom in and out tools. There's 2 ways I zoom in and out depending on where my fingers are at the time. There's the R and the T, but and then sometimes Apple brackets. I kind of fall back on that one a lot, but
Hmm.
both of those are zoom in and out. What else is an important one besides save? I don't know. 3.
Yep, that's pretty important.
Yeah, pretty important.
um, I want to open up like the chat to anybody who has any questions. We'll take like maybe 10-15 minutes worth of questions, and
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
that's cool.
we can keep chatting it up. I want to know for like maybe an artist who or a producer who's doing like rough mixes at home.
Mm.
What advice would you give them if they were gonna like put their beats on YouTube? Like in terms of like if not getting into the nitty gritty details of mixing, just in general, like maybe mixing, mastering wise, what should they do to get that translation?
I think just going back to what I said about A-Being to other mixes and other records, don't work on your things in a vacuum so much where you're only hearing that. Like you gotta listen
Mm.
to other stuff and figure out what yours is missing in comparison. Because most of the time, even me, like 9 times out of 10, when I'm A-Being something and I'm trying to figure out what I'm missing, it's usually mid range and brightness. Like the low end is always there. It's like you can't miss that. The stuff that I miss and the stuff that I spend the most time on is mid range and top. Um, and then don't blow it up loud just because you feel like you need to. Like if it sounds clear and full without a lot of limiting, go with it.
Mm.
That's not to say that there's not a time to limit the crap out of stuff. I certainly do, but if you're not adept at it, just make it sound nice because you can ruin something good really fast with a limiter. Um, like your mix might just be fine. Like you like don't throw a bunch of sauce on it that's just not welcome.
Mm.
Um,
That's a
when
gem.
when really just a good clean sound is probably better than a loud distorted one.
Daniel Maybon says, what percentage of the time do you spend mixing on your PMCs versus mixing on your Amphion?
It's 90% Ampions, 10% PMCs. um, if mainly because when I turn on all the amps, my room gets hot. But
Mm.
the Ampions, they're relatively new. I think how long have I had them now? 6 months?
I would say maybe like 6 months.
6, 7 months?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. It was top of the year, I think. I was using ProAct Studio 100s before these, and I still really, really love those. In fact, they're over in my side. Um, but they get too loud, and I play them loud, and I sit dangerously close to them, and man, it's taking a toll. So I put them to the side where I can still play them loud, and I'm just not as close to them, and I can get all the information from them that I need, which is I, I love the way those woofers move and speak to you. Like if you've got low end flabby problems, they definitely let you know. Um, these don't quite get as loud, which is good. Um, except for the fact I've blown these up a couple times already. But yeah, it's 90% Ampions. Well, no, I'd say 80% Ampions, 15% this little Oratone speaker, and then the rest of it is the PMCs. The PMCs are like the reward speaker.
Mm. You just mentioned how you kind of know based on the ProAx how the low end could be flubby or something. For
Mhm.
somebody who might Google an Amphion or a PMC and be like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, could you talk about how just knowing your speaker in general
It
helps a
doesn't
lot to?
exactly. That's what goes back to just listening to stuff. Like I even to this day, like I have a playlist of just random stuff and I leave it on all the time. And
Mm.
I'm just always listening to different music at all times. So when I got these speakers, like especially then, like I would just leave this a stream up and I'd play my Ampions at 85, like I said, and I would just listen to a whole bunch of music, like a whole bunch.
Mm.
And then that starts kind of wiring my brain to what these speakers are telling me.
Mm.
Um, um, and you can do that with any speaker. It's as long as they're some kind of halfway decent studio monitor. The Ampions definitely aren't something that you're going to play loud. So know that going in, that they're not just like amazing bang your face off speakers, but you get a lot of information from them, and that's really what you need. And
Most definitely. The
until,
detail. That's
until you've heard hours and hours of other music on them, how do you know how to make yours sound? So like, I would say if I was me starting back in the day again, I would get a set of speakers like this or something like them, set them up, get a dB meter and measure exactly how loud you're being. I have a dB meter built into this controller, but you should shoot for a level and stick with it. Because 12 hours into the session, you're turning the volume up, turning the volume down, turning the volume up, turning the volume down. Your perspective goes out of whack quick, and your brain is a funny thing. Like I've done mixes I think are amazing, and then come in here the next day and like, oh man, this is trash. How'd this happen? Well, the answer is perspective, and when your perspective is off, it's off, and your brain is fixing it in your brain, and then you come back to it again, and then your brain's not fixing it. That's when you hear like, oh, I fucked up.
that's gems. That's amazing.
But yeah, man, I listen to all music all the time, and at a reasonable level, preset level, 85 dB is the magic number. I don't go any louder than that. I mean, I go louder than that, obviously, on other speakers, but like for these, that's it, 85, and then about 20 dB lower. That's another little stop for me too, and then anything else is another speaker. The Ampions are my conversation level, a lot of information, decision making speaker.
I wanted to say shout out to Umair. You know Umair, he's in the comments right now.
Oh, word up.
And
Yeah.
Daniel Maybon asked us another question. He said, I heard you mention the black box, which I love. Other than that, do you have any favorite tape or saturation plugins that replicate Analog Mojo or Vibe?
I like Overloud's tape desk. I think they have sales on it pretty regularly. It's not terribly expensive. But I like that one. And then sometimes you gotta ask yourself, why are you looking for a tape vibe, and what do you think that is exactly? Sometimes that's just EQing something a certain way. You don't always have to, you know, um, like analog kind of takes some of the sparkle away sometimes. Sometimes you want it. Sometimes you lose sparkle that you need. Sometimes you add sparkle you don't need. It just depends. There's really no way to know what you're doing until you've listened to a whole bunch of music. I guess. I don't know. But the overloud tape desk, I like that one. The tape thing inside of Ozone is cool. I like that one. I like the UAD Ampex machine one, the ATR whatever one. I like that one. That's pretty much it, I guess. You get a lot of tape kind of simulation out of that heat. I don't know if you run heat in Pro Tools sessions. I used to not run it, but I'm running it a lot more now because they changed the playback engine in Pro Tools, and it doesn't take up nearly as much juice. So I've been using Heat a lot more. That's Pro Tools' tape thing. Have you messed with Heat?
The Heat, yeah. I actually just got a session sent to me today that had that Heat shit on. Can't lie, hate it.
No, yeah. I mean, you definitely gotta kind of keep it on and then work through it. You know what I mean? You can't just like get something that you think you like and then like, oh, I'm gonna turn on Heat now. Yeah, it'll destroy it right quick.
Hmm.
But if you work with it from the beginning and you make your decisions based on what it's giving to you, I think it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But the thing you got to be careful of at that is if you print your mixes back into Pro Tools like I do, you can't reheat your print back track. That would really make it sound bad. So make sure you bypass it on your print back tracks. And I'm usually bypassing it on the vocals too, because 9 times out of 10 I'm making some other kind of tape decision on vocals, like through their subgroups. I don't really want the heat on the vocals at all. It's really just about the instrumental. So I'll bypass it on all the vocals. The vocals get their own set of processing, and then I just kind of dab a little heat on the rest of the tracks. I think it works. It's pretty cool.
The ratchet side.
Yeah. No,
Delicious.
I'd have a hard time running it before because it would just take up so much of the voices and juice. But I
Uh,
have I have HDX2 now, and then with that new hybrid engine, Pro Tools is running like way better these days.
hmm.
Like that last update they did was like I don't know what took them so long, but like that was the answer.
That's awesome. I have been showing everybody or telling them if they haven't seen it about the new little green lightning bolts.
Oh yeah. That's what you're looking at in HDX when you turn on the hybrid engine, which I love how it's not hitting your voice count now. Like that's really the main thing. It's like all the native stuff that you were doing before that was taxing your voice count. Now it doesn't work like that anymore. Your voice count is intact.
Have you ever run into an issue where you're like, "Fuck, man, I just need like 50 more voices, but I'm out."
Yeah,
Really?
not yeah, not now though, but
Hmm.
used to be that way for sure. Now, um, I don't I don't run out of voices now because of the way that hybrid engine works. But like before, yeah, I'd bounce like 30 stacks of vocals to 2 tracks to open up more voices. Do that all the
Hmm.
time.
Um, I got like a couple more questions for you, and then I'm gonna let you go. We've been streaming a while. I appreciate you for coming on. I don't want to
Yeah,
take too
man, it's
much
all good. It's all good.
time up, but could we maybe get into like just in general methodology? You get a mix. What's the first thing you're approaching? Are you a focus on the vocal kind of person? Are you an approach the music kind of person?
I'm a listen to the rough mix kind of person because like that's the baseline that any of my work is gonna get compared to. So usually when you're sent a mix and a rough mix has been floating around for a few weeks. The artist has it, the label has it, friends of friends have it. Everyone likes the rough mix. So the first thing I do is really listen to that rough and figure out what people like about that rough. Maybe spot the things that aren't so good about it and if I fix the things that aren't so good about it, is that gonna detract from what it is that everyone likes? So I try to tread that line of enhancing what's there. Don't destroy what's good about it. Like I'm not ever gonna do like what a lot of these YouTubers say, and like, okay, the first thing you do when you get your session is you take all your audio files and turn them all down. No, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot that way really fast. Figure out what's good about their session and take it piece by piece. You can't just gain stage the whole thing down and then do your own mix, not A/B it to the rough mix and be like, my mix is amazing. Send it off and they'll be like, what? What did you do? You went to working in the vacuum and you didn't, compare apples to apples to see, okay, this is my mix, this is their mix, play them side by side, A/B them at the same level. Figure out if when you switch to the rough mix, hey, something happens there. Like this happened to me just last night. Like I did a mix, I thought it was great. I went A/B into the rough mix and I was like, oh, I missed something there. Like they had a background vocal blend that was way different than mine and it was better. So spending some time figuring out what's good about, like, why are they sending you this mix? Is it so you can just turn everything down and start over? Probably not. Probably because they want you to get a little further. So, I take as little steps back as possible during that process. There's two ways I'm sent sessions. Like sometimes I get the session and I've got all of their routing and everything they did in Pro Tools to make it what it is, and sometimes I get, rendered stems out of some other thing. It doesn't really matter what I get. The first thing that goes into my session is the rough mix. So as I'm making decisions, if I ever get lost or just feel like I'm missing something, I'll listen to the rough mix one more time. Like, oh, I'm getting that better. Oh, I missed that a little bit. So yeah, that's the first thing. And then the next thing is if it's a Pro Tools session of theirs, I figure out how to import some of my routing scheme without like destroying their mix. Because I really want to start where they left off. I'm not trying to start over. Like I want to start where they left off, which is, usually what I want to do. So if it's a Pro Tools session that comes in, yeah, kind of figure out where my template fits. If it fits at all. Always, never. Like there's no always, there's no never. Sometimes I don't use my template at all, period. I just route it all from scratch. I pick the things that I feel like I need from my template and I'll bring that in and then I'll route that stuff in. But I don't have a template that's just like, this is the one for every song. Like it doesn't work like that. That works when stuff comes in as like rendered WAV files and I've got to build the whole session from scratch. That's when I'd reach for my template of, okay, here's the template that has everything in it. And put all these rendered files in there, route everything, get everything going through my 2-bus chain, and then kind of going from there. But I don't know. What was the original question? What's the first thing I do? Yeah. Figure out why they're sending it to me. That's the first thing I do.
I think that was some very good answers, like great insight behind the real like theory to your process, because that's the one thing. Even if you said, oh, I approach the vocals first, like nobody's gonna open up a session, approach the vocals first and get a great mix. But with with the methodology you have, it's like, oh,
Right.
I
I
can
mean,
step
that's
back and
kind of the always never thing. Like sometimes you open the session and the beat is already slamming.
hmm,
It's like the beat doesn't need any work. The beat might need a couple of little things. That's when you start with the vocals first. It's like if the vocals really are what needs the most work, then yeah, I start attacking vocals first.
hmm,
Um, if the whole thing needs work, I kind of I kind of work as fast as I can to get a blend that works. Like I'll
hmm.
throw it all in there. Don't solo a whole bunch of things. Just kind of get a cool blend, and then start kind of like finding the stuff that needs help. It's like get the get the bones built fast.
Hmm.
Don't second guess that a whole lot. Like make a nice little blend, and then start looking for stuff. Um, don't just like open up the kick and be like, oh, my kick sounds awesome, and then snare. Oh, the snare sounds awesome, and then you have a whole bunch of awesome things that don't make a good mix.
I got a couple of questions in the comments for you. One, what is your favorite genre of music?
Both kinds, country and western.
Hmm, nice.
No,
Okay.
I'm joking. My favorite genre probably is kind of like a ambient Brian Eno kind of thing. I'm a kind of a sound designer in the closet guy. Like I like soundscape ambient things. Um, After that, probably indie rock. That's what I kind of grew up on, playing in bands and stuff. Um, and now it's like, what is a genre of music now? Everything's everything now. You got
Right.
trap beats and rock songs. It's like
Yep.
everything's gone into the pot, and now we just have pop music.
True.
You have pop music with rap on it. You have pop music with singing on it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I like all music, but when when the time is done and I'm not working on music, um, yeah, just old stuff that I grew up on. A lot of Pixies, a lot of country western music my dad played on vinyl. Like a lot of that old Waylon Jennings stuff, Willie Nelson
Nice.
stuff that makes me remember my childhood in a good way. That's the kind of stuff I
Awesome.
like.
Um, the next question says, out of all the artists you've worked with, who is your favorite?
That's a loaded question right there. Timberland is
Yeah, right.
definitely Timberland and Justin are both amazing. Um, Timberland is one of the funniest people I've ever met. He is hilarious, a blast to work with. Um, he's probably my favorite. Justin Timberlake being a close second.
Awesome. The next question, which also is loaded. Out of all the songs you've mixed, which is your favorite project?
Oh gosh, I don't have favorites.
Perfect.
I don't really know, man. The answer is usually the last couple things I did. So
Hmm.
I like Chloe Have Mercy because I just did that one. I like CL, the Korean rapper that just put her thing out. I like that one. Usually the last thing I did.
You just for anybody who didn't hear that the first time, you said you did "Have Mercy" by Chloe Bailey, right?
hmm
Banger, amazing.
That's another perfect example of they sent, Murder Beats isn't sending me the mix to fix his drums. Like he already did his drums. Like they
Yeah.
sent me that record for vocals, and that's one that I can say I started with the vocal on that record
Mm.
because the beat was already like if you threw too much sauce at that beat, it would just destroy it. It's like they like the raw grittiness of it. What am I gonna fix? You know what I mean? So like that one was really about just getting the vocal crispy. She does a lot of background, so getting those background vocal blends where she liked them. Yeah, and just kind of leaving the beat as is. Don't touch it too much. You know, add a little boom and sparkle, but you know, I'm not trying to reinvent a great producer's drum kit. It's just not what I do.
Our next question says, what's your favorite toy to produce with in the studio? I'm assuming they're referring to like how you said you're into sound design, like a favorite little.
I guess my favorite thing is in the corner there, my Euro rack stuff, or these old corgs.
I mean,
That's
I made you full screen so that.
I could probably get some slack over there, but I've been meaning to do a stream with you someday, but you know.
Chris has a badass synth collection, like one of the coolest I done seen. There's
the Euro rack things. Is that lined up?
Yep.
So yeah. This is what I meditate on. Like turn off my brain, just make sounds, record them for later. Oh wow, Twitch is like way delayed. The Korg's there. This guy needs some help, but the Moog. Bunch of guitar pedals. You know, just been collecting for years and years.
Amazing collection. So cool. We had another question that says, what percentage of your mixes are done in the box versus using analog gear?
It's 90% in the box, and then the 10% that we talked about earlier with the. I don't know if they were not here, but it's in the box except for my analog chain, where my mixes are printed through some analog gear and back in.
What about in a scenario where you might not be working in your home studio? What if you were out at like a studio with a SSL console? Are you summing through it? Are you working in the box there? How does that work?
We used to do that, but we don't do that anymore. I'll do a little thing on the board and then print it back in, and then it just lives inside the session. Like when we were at Conway, they had like a real plate, like a real actual plate, and like a Eventide H3000, and I dialed up some cool things on those things that I wanted to have, so I just printed those effects back in the box. So now they live in the box.
Very cool. Our next question says, have you ever mixed under the influence? If so, how did it impact the results?
I think I live under the influence.
You and me both, brother.
I don't know what they're talking about, but yes. It usually some good decisions get made, but usually not the final ones. If that makes any sense. Like some good ideas will happen and you'll get close. But you'll almost always need like a morning after session to kind of either rein it in or go a little further, depending on how it turns out. Because sometimes you'll be like, oh, that reverb is awesome. And then the next day you're like, that's way too much reverb.
Yep. I can definitely see that.
So yeah. So yeah, I have and I do. and I'll probably continue.
Nice. Well, shoot. I think I'm gonna give everybody a last call for questions if anybody got anything else to ask, and I think we can go ahead and wrap the stream up. I've been having a real good time kicking it with you, Chris.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to do this in a place where I don't feel as anxious about it because I know you.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
I don't have a great speaking voice, and sometimes it takes me a second to get my words all together, and I mumble when I talk. Um, you know, old, overweight guy. Like, I just don't feel like this fits me, but
Nah, I don't know what you're talking about.
it's cool to do it in a scenario where I feel like, okay, Killshot is my friend. I don't need to like be all worried.
Hey, we're out here spreading the knowledge that kills, my friend.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, there's
Uh,
definitely a lot of knowledge. Um, Hopefully, everyone's finding the right knowledge at the right time.
someone said in the comments, "Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, Chris."
All right. Well, very much appreciate you tuning in and calling it knowledge. I'm not sure what some of this is, but yeah.
Hey, it's experience. That's
Yeah, it is
that's
funny. Um, you know, you don't really know until you get up in your 40s that, hey, I've I I guess I have kind of made a go at this and been able to float, you know? It's um it's rare. To even be in the vicinity of someone's success is rare. So to even like be a part of what I've been able to be a part of, it's been a huge blessing. And I try not to take that for granted when I have days where I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing that. You know,
mm,
I try to talk myself out of that negativity as fast as I can when it comes around, because it does come around. Sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I'm not the biggest mixer on the planet. I wish I was, but I'm not. But I get cool projects to work on every now and again, and when I get them, I try to be happy, and hopefully they like it, and hopefully I'll keep getting them.
mhm. That's really just so great to hear. Because I'm sure a lot of people out there have maybe a similar experience even of
No, yeah,
going
yeah, yeah.
through their own. I don't know if self-conflicted emotion is the exact right word, but like, it's easy to get persuaded to like chill when you have stuff going for you. It's not easy to wake up and consistently go get it every day. That's definitely something with you I see. Like every time I hit you up, like, hey, what you doing? You're like, oh, not much, working on like 20,000 different mixes right now. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
damn, like you're just always out there working. I just really respect it and want you to know that,
that's
man.
kind of why I never really did too much promoting, because honestly, if I had any more to do, I don't know what I'd do. So, um,
Yep.
what am I gonna go hustle at? I mean, I already get all the work I want, which sometimes is not enough. Um, but sometimes it is. And when it rains, it pours. Like when it rains, no work, it's a lot of no work. And then when it rains work, it's a lot of work. Like, I don't know. I'm blessed. I'm happy. At least I try to be.
Well, hey, we're happy to have had you on the show tonight, Chris. And
Well, yeah, man. Next time, maybe I can try to rig up my computer and we can talk plugins and specific things that I do. I had done this thing that was cool with clip gaining, but then I couldn't export it. So, like, I
mm,
screen captured a session that I was working on, like, just while I was working, and then I was gonna, like, time lapse it down to see it all happen real fast. and it looked really cool, but it had demo mode across the thing. So like when I rendered it, I was like, oh man, it has demo mode on it. But like we could talk about like the clip gaining thing, which is like, gosh, man, people ask about plugins. Like probably the best plugin in the whole box is clip gain. It's like you're looking for a compressor to add control to a level or something. It's like, well, why don't you just do it in clip gain? Or if there's an S, just taking your head off in a spot, like instead of auditioning 5 different DSers, why don't you just go to clip gain and take the S and turn it down? Problem solved.
Alright.
So yeah.
Well,
But
shoot.
yeah,
I mean,
next time we'll do some stuff like that maybe.
we're definitely gonna set that up. We'd happily have you as a guest back on the show anytime. And
Yeah, man, and hats off for you for even doing this, because the hunger, you know, the hunger is what feeds you.
hey,
And if you didn't have it, you wouldn't make it. So, and you have it in spades.
appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
I'd love to tap in with you again soon. Come pay you a
yeah,
visit. Maybe I can
we will.
help you get your Twitch stream set up. I know you've mentioned that. You have a Twitch
Yeah,
channel already, right?
yeah. I do.
Can you tell everybody who's here now what your channel is so they can all go follow you over there?
I don't really do anything on there right now. It's all in theory stuff. But
Well,
my name is Earflower Inc. in Twitch. Yeah, Earflower _ Inc. is me. And
I
I've
just
streamed a couple things before. Let me give y'all my SoundCloud too, of all my little ambient stuff that I haven't updated in like 3 years, but everything I make sounds the same anyway, so it doesn't matter. There you go. Go check out some Brian Eno sounding ambient soundscapes.
amazing.
Check some of those out. You got that link there.
Yep, we got him here, and I put your Twitch link in here too. If everybody could go, follow Chris. His Instagram is right here underneath him, like it is me.
Yeah, Instagram
At
too.
earflower_inc.
On that.
Where
And I'm trying to get more active in that too. Like, social media, us old folks, takes you youngins to talk us into it. But we're coming around. We're coming around.
we're gonna get you set up here real soon.
Hey.
But alrighty, well, hey, I'm gonna. If you can see the stream, you like my little animation? I don't know how to late it is or not, but it should play in a minute here.
Pretty late. Oh yeah. Okay. What is that, a joint?
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
And sometimes we're doing gospel music over here. Can't be doing that.
I got some more cool little graphics and stuff though. So when we tune in next time, maybe when you take over the screen, I'll show you some of the extra cool little stuff I have set up. Help you get it set up too for some of your streams.
Yeah. I'll try to find a record. Maybe I can just do one from scratch on stream and just be like,
Yeah, that would be
somebody
dope.
sent me this record. This is what happens. And we got to find that record though, because sometimes I get records I can't do that with, all secret and stuff. But I get lots of them that I can. So next time I find one, I'll think about it.
That sounds like a plan.
All right.
Thank you again. I hope you have a really good night, Chris. I'm gonna talk to you soon. All right.
All right, man. I super appreciate it. Good job.
Thank you. Hope you have a good night.
Okay, everybody. Love one another. All right. Bye.
Peace out, y'all. And for anybody still here in the stream, I want to say thank you for tuning in tonight for episode 4 of Knowledge That Kills. Yeah. Oh yeah. Make sure next week you tune in. You know why you want to tune in next week? You want to tune in next week because we got a special guest, Mr. Irko himself. Irko is a multi-platinum mix engineer who has worked with artists such as Kanye West, Pitbull, and a whole shitload more. Irko's also one of my good friends. He's gonna be here next week, live, to join us on Knowledge That Kills, episode 5. I want to say special thank you to Mr. Chris Godbey. He's super dope, super awesome guy. I love him, literally. No cap. I want to just say thank you so much. Hope to have him again very soon. I've learned an incredible amount from him. I hope y'all also got to learn a whole bunch too. Y'all can catch us here next week for episode 5 of Knowledge That Kills. I'm your host, Killshot. I hope y'all have a good night.
I'm out of there. I'm gone.
Peace.